Okay, what we're talking about today is G.D. Rooke, the United Nations clerk masquerading as a judge in Canada. And we're going to talk about this whore. First of all, PIG is a person in government, persons in government who intend to breach the trust and perjure their oath. So it's an acronym. The word PIG is an acronym. And so United Nations judicial whores are so-called clerk judges who are not actually not judges, but are clerks operating for their agency and are bought and paid for under their Unidroit Treaty. The United Nations judicial whores have a kangaroo court that's prejudged under Roman civil law, and it doesn't matter what you say or do. United Nations judicial whores routinely deny due process. It's the best justice system money can buy. These United Nations judicial whores are not competent to do justice, which is, they themselves call it the appearance of justice, which is a fraud, as found in Corruption in the Courts number 4. So I would encourage you to watch my video, Corruption in the Courts number 4. It goes through it in great length and shows how the courts have to have fraud. The only thing they can deal with is fraud. That's why these aren't courts. They're all clerks, and that's one of the reasons. And they're nothing but, it's a kangaroo court. They're nothing but liars and thieves and you know, don't get me going. These United Nations judicial whores are not neutral or unbiased. They're bought and paid for. It's the best justice system money can buy. It's a fundamental right of a party to have a neutral and detached judge preside over judicial proceedings, but there's no judicial proceedings. These are all clerks, and I'll show you why. The United Nations judicial whores are selling their justice in violation of the Magna Carta. Chapter 40 of the Magna Carta says, to no one will we sell, to no one will we refuse or delay right or justice. United Nations judicial whores refuse justice if you don't pay their extortion, and they refuse or delay their justice so they can collect more royalties. That's what it's all about, is continuing it on to another hearing. So one of their clerk buddies, because they're not judges, they're clerks, so one of their clerk buddies can get in on the action. And so they continue it. They play all sorts of little games. They'll just completely rule against you, and so then you have to appeal it, and it brings business to their whore buddies in the Court of Appeals, their clerk buddies in the Court of Appeals. And so it's all about it all coming from the Vatican. This is actually a satanic religious ceremony, and that's covered in other videos. Anyways, revolutions have been fought over taxation without representation. The U.S. War of Independence is a good example. The English Civil War, the Puritan with the Puritans and Oliver Cromwell, and both of those had actually slogans that talked about the no taxation without representation. The Magna Carta, while there's no slogan or anything like that we know of, they do know that the Magna Carta is full of one of the chapters says that they're not supposed to put you to their law, which is they're representing you, and so it's the same stuff that keeps coming around again and again, and we the people need to put an end to this for once and for all, and that's why I have the Fire the Whores campaign, and this is part of Fire the Whores campaign, and we need to convene our own common law juries and start bringing these criminals to justice. And this is a Canadian court case. Revolutions have been fought over taxation without representation. This is a U.S. court case, Longborough versus Blake. If the principles of liberty and our Constitution forbid the raising of revenue from those who are not represented, do not these principles forbid the raising of it by duties, imposts, and excises, as well as by direct tax? And so, again, there's no taxation without representation. This is a Canadian case, the Supreme Court of Canada. The principle of no taxation without representation is central to our conception of democracy and the rule of law. And so there's no taxation without representation. And now what they do is they forcibly represent you whether you like it or not. This is how the CRA thieves justify their thefts. This is how the IRS thieves justify their thefts. This is how customs thieves, the Canada border pigs, justify their thefts, assaults, kidnappings, and false imprisonment. Then they drag you into their kangaroo court, and they hold a show trial with one of their clerks that's bought and paid for, and they'll get them in there, and they'll have a show trial. Let's have a show trial. These Canada border pigs and the CRA pigs and the IRS pigs make a legal determination for you. Think about it. They cannot make a legal determination for you without representing you. They say, here's a taxpayer, let's steal some money. And so they just make a legal determination for you, and they got the guns, and so that's why these Canada border pigs want guns. They want to make sure you don't have the right to, they don't have the ability to defend yourself against them, and furthermore, that's why they want to steal your guns, further to make sure that you don't have the ability to defend yourself against these pigs. And that's exactly what it's all about. And Rooke is one of the ringleaders of this. It's impossible for anyone to make a legal determination for you without representing you. Any bureaucrat who makes a legal determination for you and thereby represents you, especially after you've fired them, has breached the trust and perjured their oath. And then after they represent you, your only alternative is to go get a judicial whore like Rooke to give you some of their justice. Yeah, we'll get some of Rooke's justice. We all know what's going to go on in there. A clerk. Get a clerk to help me out here. Oh yeah. Oh, this is real justice going on here. The U.S. Declaration of Independence. This has been going on for hundreds of years. It's the same stuff that keeps coming back around and around. And this is the same stuff that was going on in the War of Independence. This is actually excerpts from the U.S. Declaration of Independence. And you got to understand the U.S. Declaration of Independence is basically a list of grievances. Basically, Jefferson said that because the king has violated the law of nature and nature's God, we're telling him to take a hike. But because of a decent respect of our fellow men, we're going to make a list and make it public. And so that's what the Declaration of Independence was all about. And so these are some of the grievances that they listed. It was a list of grievances. And one of them is he has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. Well, think about it. Gee, foreign to our Constitution, unacknowledged by our laws, that sounds like martial law. And if you go through the martial law video, you'll see that that's exactly what's going on, and it has been going on for decades. And acts of pretended legislation or color of law, martial law works under color of law and presumption. That's how martial law works. And one of the other grievances was for imposing taxes on us without our consent. Yes, they have to have your consent. Why do you think they're representing you? They're representing you because if you don't object, then they have your consent. Or according to the thieves, they have your consent. And so again, that's the way it works. For depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, okay, and that's another one of the grievances. And again, you have to understand that that's evidence of martial law. If it's not a jury trial, if it's not a trial by jury, then it's a kangaroo court. It's a clerk, is what it is. It's martial law, and the operative word or phrase there is trial by jury. Okay, it's not a jury trial, it's a trial by jury, because a trial by jury, the jury calls the witnesses, the jury questions the witnesses, the jury determines the law and the facts in the matter, and if necessary, the jury even pronounces sentence. And so the jury does everything. There's one of these judicial whores in there telling the jury what to do or ignoring what the jury's decision is. That's not a trial by jury. Okay, you have to understand that. We have to know what a trial by jury is. This is actually taken an imperial act, George III, chapter 12, 1778, 2 years after the War of Independence, and or the Declaration of Independence, I should say. And it says, whereas taxation by the Parliament of Great Britain for the purpose of raising revenue in His Majesty's colonies, provinces, and plantations in North America has been found by experience to occasion great uneasiness and disorders. Well, no joke, Batman, that from and after the passing of this act, the King and Parliament of Great Britain will not impose any duty, tax, or assessment whatever payable in any of the colonies, provinces, or plantations in North America or the West Indies, except only such duties as may be expedient to impose for the regulation of commerce. And of course, that's exactly what it is. It's all commercial. You have to consent. And what you have is these brain-dead, idiot hired thugs. They go and deliberately screen out anybody that's got any brains. They want hired thugs. They want axe murderers, basically, because they want someone to assault you and kidnap you and falsely imprison you. And Rooke and his clerk buddies on the bench want to encourage it because it makes so much business for their kangaroo courts. There's Patrick Henry said, give me liberty or give me death. That's a phrase that's attributed to Patrick Henry, and after he witnessed a guy get flogged to death for refusing to take a license, okay? So this is what they do, is they hire some bunch of thugs. They hire hired thugs is what they are, so they can go out and assault you, and in this case, they flogged a guy to death for not taking a license. And it turns out that this license was to be a preacher. And so, since when do you have to have a license to be a preacher? So they convert it right into a privilege, and then they send their hired thugs out there to assault you and shove their license and their taxes down your throat. So, and licenses and taxes work together. And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about that right now. A license, okay, this is taken from Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1843 edition. A license is a contract, is a right given by some competent authority to do an act which without such authority would be illegal. The instrument or writing which secures this right is also called a license. And so a license is a contract. So old Patrick Henry witnessed someone get flogged to death because they didn't want to enter into a contract, and that particular contract was they were converting a right into a privilege, but that didn't stop the hired thugs from flogging the guy to death, did it? And so this is exactly the game that Rooke and these whores and that bitch Elizabeth are playing. That's exactly what it is, and it's coming around again. And the sooner that we wake up about it, the better. Furthermore, a license is express or implied. An express license is one which in direct terms authorizes the performance of a certain act, as a license to keep a tavern by a public authority. An implied license is one which, though not expressly given, may be presumed from the acts of the party having the right to give it. And so the express license is pretty obvious, but the implied license is interesting, because if you think about it, a court filing fee is an implied license, because it's a tax. I mean, the courts have even referred to it as a tax. When you pay costs, they tax you, and the license is an implied license to proceed in their kangaroo court, okay? And so in their so-called court, they're converting a right into a privilege, first of all, and then they're taxing you, and when you pay the tax, you get the license to proceed, and that's exactly how it works. And they do it all the time. And if you don't complain, then you've consented. The right for payment of such licenses is only a mode of imposing taxes. This is actually U.S. Supreme Court, the license tax cases. The requirement of payment for such licenses is only a mode of imposing taxes on the licensed business. Okay, so first of all, it's only businesses that are supposed to be getting taxed. There's Supreme Court cases that say that the government only has jurisdiction over things that it creates. And so if there's something that it creates, then they have jurisdiction and they can tax it. And in fact, they can destroy it. And if they can take a penny, they can take it all. And so again, this is what you have to understand. Licenses and taxes work together. You cannot have a tax without a license. You cannot have a license without a tax. Actually, you can have a license without a tax. But what they do is that's when they convert a right into a privilege, because they know they're converting a right into a privilege. So they'll sit there and hand out this license and say, well, you can get this license. It doesn't cost anything. And they get people used to getting it, the sheeple, I should say, used to getting this license, and so then after a while they'll start taxing it a little bit. I mean, think about it. That's what they did with the income tax, is it started out at what the War of Independence was fought over a 2% tax. That's exactly true. The whole War of Independence was fought over 2%, and if they only had any knowledge of the kind of taxes that these thieves do nowadays. But so the point is they start off with free, and then they start saying, oh, we need a couple pennies to cover the paperwork, and then the next thing you know, they're charging you outrageous amounts of money. And first of all, they have to get you used to it, and the sheeple, they just cave in. They don't have any concept of the law, and that's what the whole purpose of this video is to educate people about the law. And so licenses and taxes work together. A license is only a mode of enforcing the payment of such taxes. The recognition by the acts of Congress of the power and the right of states to tax and control, regulate any business. So it's for businesses only. It's for things that are created by the government. And they didn't create you or me. And again, they're getting you used to being their slave, okay? Because if they created you, then you are their slave. This is all about slavery. This is really, that's what it's all about. Think about it. Income tax is a perfect example. If you're forced to work for them for 1 penny, well, first of all, if you have to pay them a penny, then you are being forced to work for nothing for that penny. And so that's slavery. Think about it. That's exactly what it is. And how many people pay tens of thousands of dollars every year? You are a slave for that tens of thousands of dollars. Most people just cave right in and pay it off. And that's exactly what it is. It's slavery. It's all about slavery. And that's exactly what it's all about. If they can take a penny, they can take it all. And this Rooke, this J.D. Rooke, the pig, got his first notice and demand on the 15th of September 2010, and then he got another one on the 9th of December 2010 by express mail. First one was by registered mail, and then he got the last one on 8th of November 2013, and I think this is the one on 8th of November 2013. Let's go back here. Yes, it is. And so that's the big view. Let's look at it close. There's the registration number, and this is some of the things that I told him. In fact, it was like about 40 pages, and it talks about Unidroit, and so he can't claim plausible deniability. That's the reason they don't want me sending stuff to him, because they don't want me to build a case against him. That's what it is. Okay, but old rookie baby, Judgment Day's coming, and anyway, so this one says and your subordinates and successors. First of all, that's one thing that's in there, and it says, I do not give you authority to make a legal determination for me. And then it says in paragraph 5, if you think or assume you're representing me, you're fired. And then in paragraph 6, that neither you nor any other person is competent in dealing with any of my affairs. And then in paragraph 7, it says that I am competent in dealing in all of my affairs. And so Rooke knows, okay? That's the reason they don't want me sending stuff. That's the reason his court buddy, Redmond, went and part of his order in his kangaroo show trial court, told me I can't send stuff out. But you wake up, boys and girls. I'm going to be sending it anyways. I don't care what you say. And Judgment Day's coming, and I'm looking forward to it, let me tell you. Anyways, so then Rooke, what happens is, this is the big picture. Let's zoom in close. This is showing the receipt that I got from the post office when I served it on them, and the stamp, and look at that. Look at that. There's the tracking number, and it says, we were not able to find any results. The post office, it magically disappeared. It's amazing how that works, eh? I guess if you're one of the clerks, like Rooke, you can make things mysteriously disappear. It's amazing how that works. He obviously doesn't want to be held accountable for it. You know, that's this further proof that he's perjured his oath and engaged in sedition and treason. And so there's the registration number on the postal receipt, and there's the stamp on the back of the registration label. And so, anyways, J.D. Rooke knows that the clerk knows that all so-called judges in the court of Queen's Bench are his subordinates. Rooke knows he's conspired with the post office clerks to destroy evidence of service of my documents, which, by the way, is mail fraud. Rooke knows that he represented me without authority when he accused me of being a paper terrorist in his decision, his Meads decision, which is actually slander and defamation. And Rooke used a divorce case, Meads versus Meads, as an opportunity to smear anybody who thinks they're free with his OPCA acronym that stands for Organized Pseudo-Legal Commercial Argument Litigants, as found in paragraph 1 of his decision. And so Rooke is using a Meads versus Meads. Get a load of this. This is really good. Rooke uses Meads versus Meads, which is a divorce case, okay? So it's based on the divorce statute, right? So he's a clerk. He's not a judge. He's a clerk administering this divorce statute under the United Nations, and he uses that to shove this stuff down everybody's throat. Anyways, we're going to go into that in a minute. First of all, the point I want to make out here is such as the sentence of a court of admiralty on a question of prize or a decree of nullity or a dissolution of marriage. Okay, so divorce court is an admiralty court. He's a clerk. Any admiralty court, there's no judge in there. They're a clerk. And they're getting a commission too, by the way. And that's what it's all about, is collecting that royalty. Most judges retire millionaires because of the royalties they collect off of these admiralty cases. So they just convert them all into admiralty cases. It's really quite easy to do. And especially when you got whores like Rooke running around that are helping you. And so this is taken from a Dictionary of American and English Law, Volume 1, 1883 edition. And so, again, an admiralty court deals with marriage divorces. A Divorce Act is a federal statute in Canada. Therefore, Rooke is operating as a clerk for the United Nations and was not operating in a judicial capacity, as already described herein. And this is where he goes and in his decision, in that decision, Meads versus Meads, he goes and part of where he talks about me, and this is paragraph 176, and he talks about the case that I filed against him, and it says leave to appeal denied. Well, rookie baby, I didn't need leave to appeal. I was appealing as a matter of right, but I didn't have the what happened is Catherine Fraser, the chief whore, operating as a clerk under the Judicature Act, and her hired Doug McDonald, a judicial whore, intended to sell her justice in violation of the Magna Carta, and I did not have the IOUs to set up the $600 filing tax. And so the Magna Carta says, to no one will we sell, to no one will refuse, delay, right, or justice, and that's chapter 40, and this is proof that they intended to refuse their justice and deny my rights and justice in violation of chapter 40. And this is just more meat for the grill, for the grinder, old rookie baby.